Ever since I've played Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, I've been a huge Silver the Hedgehog fan. I have everything Silver, from posters to t-shirts, prints to plush dolls, stickers to figurines. You name it, I have it. One day, after a long day of school, I was searching on my laptop for some Sega merchandise to add to my collection, and I saw a website that read Silver.EXE. It got my attention, and you know, me being a huge Silver fan, my curiosity got the best of me. I clicked on the link. I saw in large white letters that read Silver.exe across a light blue background. Silver was on a picture. His back was turned towards me, and his golden eyes stared right at me. "Oh wow!" I said out loud as I read the words. "New game!" along the article subtitle. I had to get the game. I just had to. I mean, come on. This game was just coming out and being sold for $30. Where else can you find great deals like this? Without a moment's hesitation, I placed in my order, name, address, credit card information, and pressed submit. Now it's just a matter of waiting for the events that would change my life forever. The game came in the mail 3 weeks later. It came in a small yellow envelope with my name and address written on it, but it had no return address on it. Weird. I thought I just went back inside the house. I placed all the mail on the dining room table except my package, which I clutched to my chest with anticipation. I went up to my room, closed the door, and tore open the envelope. Inside it was a note taped to the game's case. "Hello, Alex. Thank you for the purchase of Silver.exe. I have a feeling that you enjoy this game so much you played to the end or died trying. Yuji Uegawa." I thought of the note as a bit disturbing, especially where he bolded the word "die." But it could just be Seller wishing me luck. I shrugged my shoulders, knowing that was just that. I put the disc into my PS3 and waited for it to read and load. Something wasn't right about this game. I noticed. Sega 666 appeared on the screen in red letters. And usually, the games just have Sega. The start screen popped up. It looked just a start screen of Sonic 2006, only it was Silver instead of Sonic. He looked like he was ready for a fight. But then, I spotted a small glitch in the game. The sky in the background was red. Blood red. And the grass was gray. The game, which looked so beautiful at first now, had a creepy atmosphere to it. What scared me the most was a monster that was Silver. His eyes were two black voids, with glowing red dots in the middle of them, and they were oozing blood. He grinned at me. His teeth were blood-covered and sharp like a shark's after a bloody kill. But what really got my attention was that the designs on his gloves and cuffs were not the usually teal, but bright red. I pressed start. The screen went black for about 10 seconds. Then the character select appeared. There was only one character in the slot, Blaze. I chose the character. There was a hideous laughter coming from the screen as the whole thing faded to black. The first level had the name, "Run, little one." Blaze stood in the middle of the screen. The background was a scene from Sonic Rush. Using the left joystick on my controller, I moved Blaze along. There was no music playing, just the sound of Blaze's footsteps going pitter-patter on the ground. Just then, the screen began to static for about 3 seconds. When it cleared, the ground was covered in blood. The grass was gray, and the sky was red, just like the title start menu. Blaze looked scared out of her wits. She had tears in her eyes as I moved her through the level. This wasn't right. It seemed like Blaze actually was worried, as if she knew something horrific was about to happen, but had no way of telling me what it was. It wasn't long before she found Silver. His back was turned towards the screen, and he seemed to be staring off into the distance. The screen turned to a cutscene. Blaze called to Silver, but he didn't respond. She crept closer, calling his name, but still, there was no response. With a worried look on her face, she put a hand on Silver's shoulder and turned him around. He stared at her with those empty black eyes, and his mouth twisted upward into a sinister smile. And then, all just went black. "It's no use," was the second level. Blaze was terrified. I tried to make her run in opposite direction to Silver, but she was caught, surrounded by a red glow. Blaze struggled against Silver's psychokinetic powers, crying, knowing there was nothing she could do. Silver laughed evilly. "It's no use," he said. "So why even try?" He began to pull the helpless Blaze towards him. Laughing, his eyes began to glow brighter, and a red light outlined his white third body. With a flick of his hand, Blaz's body began to be crushed, and a singing crunch could be heard coming from the speakers. The poor cat's body crunched, then split apart as blood gushed from her body. After that, the screen faded to black, as Blaze's scream blasted from the darkness for about 5 seconds. Then, everything just went dead silent. The words, "I am not to be trifled with," appeared on the screen in white letters before the character selection menu popped up again. I dropped my controller. It hit the floor, with a thud inches from my feet. What the hell just happened? Why would Silver do this to his friend? What happened to the Silver that was so kind and naive? I stared at the TV screen just horrified. Blaze's story said 100% complete, but it wasn't staring at that, but the leftovers of Blaze. Her eyes were black and bleeding. She was crying blood, and her tail was missing. Her fur was a dark purple, and her left arm was chopped and hanging by a thread of meat. Her jaw was ripped out of her skull, and the wound bled heavily. What Silver did to Blaze was terrible. I had to find a way to stop him, and fast. I picked my controller off the floor, and selected the second character in the slot, Amy. Surely, she could stop Silver. I mean, she has a giant hammer, right? The chapter was, "I'm not Sonic." And the part that was super creepy was that the scene was from Sonic CD, where Sonic saves Amy. Only it was covered with blood and corpses. I used a joystick to move Amy along. She showed only a little bit of fear. Obviously, not so sure how she would feel. Another cutscene came, and I was just left to watch. Amy examined the corpses as she walked. Her fear growing as she passed each one. She eventually came upon one particular body and started crying. I began to do the same as the victim was Sonic. Silver stood with one boot on Sonic's lifeless body. He held in one hand the head of Sonic and was using it like a sadistic version of a sock puppet. He seemed to be enjoying watching Amy suffer. Amy stared up at Silver, begging him to stop. Silver turned to look at her. He dropped Sonic's head, stepped closer to her, and placed his hands on her forehead. There was another blood-curdled scream, but louder this time, as Amy's head crushed and exploded. Blood gushed everywhere, and once again, the screen faded to black. The screen went back to the menu. Both Blaze and Amy's progress showed 100%, yet they were in their dead state. Amy looked worse. Her fur was disgusting pickle green, and her eyes also gone black and bleeding. The hammer she would carry was stabbed through her chest. Her head was stitched together like a jigsaw puzzle, and she was covered in blood. Despite my emotions toward this game, I knew I had to finish it. I selected the last file, Mephiles, and pressed start. The level was from Sonic.exe, when Silver meets Mephiles, for the first time, but the scene had flames in the background as well. I ventured forward, controlling Mephiles to the best of my ability. The black hedgehog looked exhausted for some reason, and decided to sit down on the ground. I was confused. "Are you nuts?" I shouted at the screen, but Mephiles didn't hear me, but instead looking right at me, as if breaking the fourth wall and acknowledging my presence outside the game. "Take this," came a voice, and as expected, Mephiles was sent flying across the screen and connected with a wall. He fell to the ground in pain. The black hedgehog stared up at Silver, but showed no fear for the white monster in front of him. Mephiles rose to his feet and tried to fight back, but was soon surrounded by a red glow. He couldn't move. In fact, it looked as if he couldn't even breathe. Silver was suffocating him. He was going to take his life. "You shouldn't have tricked me," grumbled Silver. The screen went black again, and I could hear Mephiles scream from the darkness as Silver finally finished him off. The scream lasted for 8 seconds, then silence. I waited for what might come next. If anything, The screen began to static, and then returned to normal. Silver's face appeared. His fur was covered in blood, and a deranged smile was on his face. "What do you want?" I stuttered. "Leave me alone!" Silver's grin widened, stretching from ear to ear. Those red dots in his eyes grew brighter with insanity and bloodlust. He cocked his head to the side and pointed at me through the screen. "You're next."